Hello, this is Ed Lewis here with IGN PS2 doing a video review of Metal Gear Solid 3. And starting off the whole review, just say without a doubt, this is the best Metal Gear Solid game out there. Of the three, by far the best. When the first time you start up Metal Gear Solid 3, you're going to have an option saying like, well, I've never played these games before. My favorite is the first one, my favorite is the second one. Now actually influence the amount of codec, the amount of instructions that you get in the very beginning of the game. Now firstly, let me just delve into the storyline. This time around, everything takes place in 1964, and we have a person who looks a lot like Snake and is not quite Snake, but you'll pretty much quickly figure out, if you haven't already, just exactly who the main character in the game is. Regardless, the whole game takes place in 1964, which gives the whole thing much more of an older feel to it, kind of like early James Bond type of movies, and a lot of intrigue and a lot of like spies and everything, double agents, triple agents, which lends the whole kind of depth and complexity that Kojima loves putting in his games, but still much more of a straightforward type of affair than especially 2. And this time around, there's also much more humor. There's humor in everywhere in the game, all the characters, there's much more personality in all the characters, and Revolver Ocelot becomes one of the funniest characters in the game. He has some of the best animations, some of the best character movements, and once again, the art and the graphics and everything about the game looks amazingly good. It is absolutely fantastic, and once again, a benchmark for the PlayStation 2 period. Later on in the game, we won't give any spoilers, there's also much more action, and there's huge set pieces that pretty much go on for quite a long time. And you'll see references to Indiana Jones, Star Wars, several other movies as well. If you can, basically, there's just like a movie lover's dream and a game player's dream. So just need to emphasize that this is a really good balance of both elements of game and story. Bringing the game back into 1964 brings the game into more of an analog era. Instead of, watching the cones of view and the radar in the previous game, this time around it's all about your own senses. It's all about using active sonar to actually send out a pulse to figure out where the locations of everything. Keeping in mind that animals will also give off return blips in that. So you have to really use a combination of your own sonar, anti-personnel sensor, as well as infrared, every trick you have at your disposal to make sure that you're stealthy. And this really takes the whole game into an evolution of bringing the stealth more to the forefront of the game than even it was before. A lot of the stealth also involves camouflage, which is a very easy to use system. Just basically you can have an index of 0 to 100% of how well you are currently camouflaged in the game. This is determined by what you're wearing, whether you're standing, crouching, lying prone, or whether you're moving or running. All that will factor into just how well people can see you against the rest of the environment. The other two systems in the game that are in place are the eating and the cure system. Eating is just a matter of getting food, so getting food off of enemies, or mostly just finding animals that are edible and it will replenish the stamina. So here the cure system is also just healing yourself, bullet wounds, cuts, burns, all of that. And once again, it sounds complicated, but it's easy to pull off. And it's definitely the best thing about the game is that it has lots of things going on, but it's still not overwhelmingly complicated. You can easily just jump in the game, and that's what makes it so amazingly fluid and such a beautiful experience all around. The final new system in the game is also known as the CQC, the Close Quarter Combat. And with the CQC, it's a much more involved and integrated way of actually dealing with the enemies. You can knock them out like before, you can hold them hostage like before, but now you can also use knife and gun combo, where you can hold a person with a knife and use a gun to take other people out. You can also use a knife to threaten them and interrogate them for information. Sometimes this will be useless, they'll just struggle against you, but other times it can even give you unlock codes to open new doors, or it can also point out hidden areas that you might not have been able to find before. And as a system, it's one of those things that, again, this time this system looks incredibly simple, not much to it, but really using it more and more becomes much more of a fun part of how can you really sneak up to someone, grab them, interrogate them, and basically finish them off, kill them, and without still attracting any attention from anybody else in the meantime. As a whole, the game is so much more whole and so much more fulfilling. There's a lot more chances to actually just play the game. There are many complaints about Metal Gear Solid 2, and to be honest, one is that there are so many times where you're just watching movies and you're just codec after codec after codec, but this time around the game just goes. There's a big intro to the game, and there's a lot of movies up front, but then actually there's a huge stretch of just fighting, just going through different situations, and that's what the game really just shows itself off very well. I finished in just over 20 hours, but I give a good estimate of the game, 20 to 25 hours, and all of it was very, very fun. There were very few stretches where I was wondering what the hell I'm going to be doing. And to be honest, there's still some issues about where the camera is, because some of the grass will force a first-person perspective, and you still can't move around in first-person view. but those problems are pretty much overwhelmed by the massive quality of like everything else that's going on in the game. This is definitely a contender for Game of the Year. This is definitely one of the best games that we've seen on the PS2, and this is definitely, I would say, the best game in the series.